Jar Oil. The company have filling stations across the country, and our rates are relatively cheaper than anyone else across the country. Jar Oil is the biggest producer and distributor of cement in the country with the most competitive prices in the market.
Excellent jam, Suwaib.
Yo, apply. Yo, luta do de. Luta mo nulo jël moto nga andil ma xaalis. Hello?
Bisul mu fine.
What?
Bisul mu fine.
Oh, yes!
Wave Axina Gambia. Deposit and withdraw money, pay bills and buy mobile credit without fees. Transfer money wherever in the country for only 1% fee. At Wave. Bisul mu fine? Wave. Your money is yours.
9 o'clock in the morning in the Gambia on Tuesday, the 24th of June 2025. The program is Coffee Time with Peter Gomez. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. For the next 1 hour on the program, we're going to be talking about reparations with the Reparations Commission. Let's do the intros first, starting with the person sitting right across from me from the table, right in the middle of the panel of speakers.
Okay, my name is Dr. Badar Alum. I'm the chairperson of the Reparations Commission. I have a background in agricultural research, development, and public administration. I am here with my colleagues. Maybe they will introduce themselves.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, I should have started with, well, they say women first. Huh? Ladies first. Why Mam Sumarakala Dinamo Balal? So, yes, introduce yourself. And it's been ages. It's good that the Reparations Commission has brought us together.
You're right, Peter. Good morning, Peter, and good morning to all our listeners. I am Isa Tundau. I'm the vice chairperson of the Reparation Commission. I am an educationist. I think I've been teaching all my life since my adult age. I've been teaching, so I'm at the Gambia College as also the vice principal of Gambia College.
Fantastic, fantastic. And last but not least.
Thank you, Peter. My name is Dr. Baba Nindafe. I'm a medical doctor by profession. Also have a legal and forensic background. I've been working with the survivors of sexual and gender-based violence. I've been an expert witness, most of the high court in the Gambia, and also working with various groups with regards to sexual and gender-based violence, and now working with the Commission.
Fantastic, fantastic. So, Dr. Loom, introduce your commission to us, the Reparations Commission. Okay, what's your mandate?
The Reparations Commission is part of the recommendations that stem out from the TRRC. The TRRC recommended there should be a commission that will be in charge of redressing the violation of human rights that were committed during the period of the Jammeh regime, which is from 1994 to 2017. So our mandate is not that complicated. It just reminds us of the need to redress past violations of human rights and to ensure that victims get redress. So basically that's the mandate, and our term of office is for 5 years. Beginning on the 1st of April. I don't like the 1st of April because sometimes people might not take it as something serious, but actually we were appointed on the 1st of April and was sworn in by His Excellency the President, Mr. Adam Barrow, on the 11th of April 2025 at State House. So effectively, although the act came into force in 2023, actual implementation of the act started in April 2025.
Does that mean that you've lost almost 2 years?
Well, no.
So the 5 years begin,
when we were appointed.
Okay.
When we were appointed, really. And also, once we were appointed, we have taken some steps. Like we ensure that we have a work plan that will lead us in the activities that we're going to conduct in the next 2 years. We have conducted training for the commissioners, and there will be also an additional training that will be funded by UNDP in the coming weeks. We have also been able to ensure that we have recruited, because it was the commission that's supposed to recruit the executive secretary. We have recruited an executive secretary We have office space which we are not using as yet because of some technical and logistical issues, but eventually we will move to our office, which is located at the Logis building on the OIC highway.
Okay. Okay. Well, let's bring in Aissatou as vice chair. So, well, you are yet to move into, you know, your new office.
Yeah.
Where do you do your work from?
Well, for our meetings, we normally use the ICTJ premises. That is the one of the arms of the transitional justice activities programs. But then at the same time also, because we all have our individual offices, we also work in our different offices and so on. So, but then when we have our meetings, it is in at the ICTGA office. That's where we have our meetings, because we already have an understanding with them, a memorandum of understanding, because they are all part of the transitional justice program.
Okay. And tell me more about, you know, okay, you've recruited an executive secretary. What about I mean, he or she won't be working alone. She needs a backup staff. How about the rest of the staff that will be working with?
I think we are in the process of recruiting the other staff, because as Dr. Lum have said, we've already got the executive secretary. So the other members of staff, like the deputy executive secretary, because we'll have a deputy executive secretary, we'll also have sort of a statement taker, because we have to sort of get in new victims and so on. So there are different positions that we're working on to make sure that we get those people before the end of the year.
And Dr. Dafe, in the meantime, has there been any interaction with victims? And if yes, you know, yeah, what's it been like?
Yes, so far, when we were inaugurated by the president, our first assignment, that particular very day, we had a meeting with the victims at the victim center. I think that was a good move in the right directions. We want to hear from the victims, interact with them. That was the first interactions. But apart from that, we have been also engaging them, and then we're going to meet them also very soon. We're going to visit the memory house where we will interact with the victims. But in a nutshell, that interaction has been going on, because most of even the commissioners among us were also a victim. So we realized that we've been engaging them, but not all the victims, but victim representation.
Okay, and I mean, you've been engaging them. What have they been telling you? What have you been saying back?
Well, the first engagement, some believe that money should be available that immediate, very day, which we think it may be difficult. Even if you have the money available that particular day, you need to have your database. And you also need to assess this victim to know the level of the violation before. And the compensation also have categories. So you need to categorize them too. So even if you have the money available, it will take a little bit time for you to make a right compensation. Otherwise, you will mix everything.
And, you know, you've ushered us neatly into, you know, talking about the process. I mean, the process of reparation. How complicated or how easy ultimately will it be?
It's quite complicated, Peter, because for starters, the TRRC recognized 1,009 victims.
Oh, wow, that many.
2009. About 340-something witnesses were interviewed, and the database shows that there are 1,009 victims. And some payment was made. I think it was 19% of the claims that were supposed to be settled. So the TRRC recognized a total bill for reparation of about $205 million.
Dollars or dollars?
No, we're talking of dollars now. But out of that amount, only 19% was paid out. It means that there is still an outstanding balance of about $170 million to be paid out. But again, that was just for the victims that were interviewed. There is the also very touchy issue of the West African migrants who also need to be compensated. That we believe that is an outstanding bill of about $32 million. In addition, there will be newly registered victims, those who did not go to the TRRC, but yet they qualify as victims. Our guess is that maybe we are looking at about another 200 to 300 victims who might come up. In case that happens, then we will say that we will need an additional apart from the 168 million, that's or rounded up to 170 million, we will still need another $100 million for reparations. Now, what is in the act is very clear. At the central bank, there will be two accounts. One would be for, it's called the fund. The fund is just for victim reparations. And the commission cannot use it for operational or other expenses. So that fund, when the commission was inaugurated, we were told that they will pay in about, the guess was about 50 million. But eventually we were told that it was be slashed because there was some IMF regulations saying that they should slash the budget. So I think that the slack funds were, because there was no commission, we came under the knife, and now our budget was slashed by about 50%. So for the fund itself, the allocation is only 20 million from April to the end of the year. But that's in the budget. But it doesn't mean like the physical cash is there, because we have still not seen the money. It's still, it will eventually be lodged to the account in the central bank. For operations, we are also told that we'll have 20 million for operations. That will be personal emoluments and also operating expenses. But again, that also was slashed, and we end up having 10 million in principle. Now, the challenge is, where do we go from here? Getting access to even the allocation is a problem, because opening the account at the central bank took quite a while. We're still hoping that maybe this week the accounts will open. Once the accounts are open and the funds are in the reparation fund, then we will start the business of, again, seeing the little that we have. How can it be equitably distributed among the victims? The TRRC use this point-based system whereby they will say, okay, those who were killed would have 10 points, enforced disappearance maybe 7 points or 8 points, unlawful detention 5 points. But this point-based system was developed by the UN system years ago, and there is a specialist who is based in the Philippines. We are having training about general reparations with the commission on first week of July, and we hope to get this person as a resource person virtually. He's not coming from the Philippines, but virtually.
1st of July is only next week.
Yes, I know. Yeah. No, I mean, from the 1st to the 11th, that's, they will say, what they say is that we have to do the training before the 11th, because by the 11th is gone.
Okay.
Probably will be on the 10th and the 11th, maybe. 10th and 11th, yeah. So that is one thing. The other thing is the victims who did not have the possibility of coming to the TRRC, those ones we just have to estimate that there might be a lot of people coming in, because so many people have been calling us, telling us that, well, I didn't come to the TRRC because I didn't know whether it was safe. Some people are still traumatized and they have this problem. So that's where we are, Peter.
Okay, all right. Yeah. Let me go to Ida as vice chair. And how will you determine, you know, among the potential new victims, who actually qualifies to be a victim?
Well, I think it would also take a process, and that would be, they would register, and then investigation will be carried out on them. They will write their own report, investigation carried out, and then later on we'll have to sit down and then look at the facts, the evidence that they have given, and determine whether they are real victims or not. And I think there also we might need the support of maybe lawyers and so on, because at least they will know the law and all of that. So it's not going to be just coming in and then saying I'm a victim and then say, okay, come, well, let's give you this amount of money or compensate you for this or that. But we have to come in, then write your statement or say what you have to say, then we do our investigation. Later on, sit as a committee, because we have a compensation committee. That compensation committee would also meet, and then if there is need to get in support from somebody who knows the law, then we bring in that person to support us before we are able to finally come back to the main committee and say, this is what we have found out, so this person is eligible or not eligible. So it's not going to be just a one-day thing or a one-week thing also, but it might take some time.
And you know Gambians and money.
Yes,
know, your chairman was just lamenting the fact that your budget was cut twice.
That's
all right.
But I want people to also understand that compensation is not just about money.
I was coming to that.
Compensation is not about money. It could be medical assistance. It could be psychosocial
We'll get into
support.
the details of that. What I wanted to ask was whether now that you are on radio, people hear that, oh, there's a commission, you know, reparation. The first thing they would associate reparations with is money, financial benefit. That this will, you know, encourage people, entice people, spur people to come forward. You might have been, I might even come forward. I was, you know, illegally sacked from my job. It's true. But do you think, you know, I mean, because you are now on radio, the floodgates will open from here?
Well, I'm sure it will. It will, because I'm sure a lot of people didn't know that this commission exists. But now that we are on radio, and I think this program, Coffee Time, is very popular, so the floodgates will open.
Maybe we should say something in the local languages, because most of the people affected actually are not there. Let me go to Dr. Dafe. So, we're talking about, you know, proving that a Peter Gomez who comes to the commission and says, well, I was also a victim. I was just overly traumatized, and the TRRC might have been set up, you know, too soon after Yaya Jammeh had left. I hadn't, you know, overcome my trauma and all of that. But here I am with their complaint. What would you have? Well, she mentioned that you might need lawyers. What about doctors and other subject specialists? And if you require these, how will you bring them on board?
Yes.
Or how do you plan to bring them on board?
Yes. So if you look at the reparation itself, it has three major parts.
Okay.
Restitutions, you have the compensation and rehabilitation. Of course, when you come to rehabilitation, it's talk about those who are affected physically. How do we restore their health? So post-TRRC unit of the Ministry of Justice have set up a medical board. We are trying to work with this medical board. Already they've started the process, but now the commission is set up. We will be working with them and we will oversee their activities. We want to know the people who are affected physically. And that process is going, because from the report, when we met the secretary, I met the secretary personally, and we've discussed about the progress of the work they did so far. I think that they saw a lot of cases. In fact, they recommended 4 to be evacuated for outside medical treatment, although there is no phone available. So as the vice chairman said, you need to take history from these victims, look at them, you see the evidence that they've qualified to under this category for them to be rehabilitated. Because of course some of them physically you may know, but psychosocial trauma, and then they have to be assessed by the psychosocial experts. Already the medical board has this person who is working, and I've seen so many people, the medications have been given and they are ongoing their treatment. So our mandate, we will work with this the medical board to ensure that every victim that is affected physically or mentally get the treatment, and that is ongoing.
And Dr. Loomis, Chair, how do you think the lack of funding to make the commission, you know, truly independent? I mean, you've evaluated Peter Gomez. He needs medical evacuation. The funds are there. You pay for the evacuation and everything so that they leave. This lack of independence. There's a medical board. I mean, they do an assessment and somebody needs to be evacuated, but then you depend on another institution for the evacuation. What if they don't move forward? I mean, how will this affect, you know, the efficacy in the eyes of many people of the commission?
Okay, Peter, if you just allow me to digress a little bit,
sure,
and explain the setup of the commission itself. The day-to-day administration of the commission actually is run by a secretariat. I think the executive secretary should have been here with us, but he's newly appointed, and maybe
we'll get them in one day.
So the executive secretariat includes also investigators and also accountants and so forth. So when somebody comes into the secretariat to lay a complaint, there will be some people who are called statement takers. They will take the statement, and then the investigators will now go into the field to find out whether really this person qualifies for reparations or not. Coming to the independent, the law is very clear. The commission is independent. But as you say, they say whoever pays the piper calls the tune.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So that being the case, we will still want to maintain our integrity and ensure that we're not going to take dictation from anywhere, because it's a very sensitive commission, and people will be looking out for, wherever there might be, we might sort of deviate from what is supposed to be done. When it comes to spending the money of the fund, that's specifically spelled out in the law, in the act, that is only used for victims. So if it is necessary to evacuate somebody and there is the funding available, we don't have to depend on anybody else.
Okay.
Because nobody can spend that fund apart from the commission. And the commission has approved signatories, my humble self, the vice chair, and also the executive secretary. You need 3 signatures or minimum two signatures. So definitely, if the funding is available, then we don't need permission from anybody else. But coming back to funding, we're not going to depend entirely on provisions from whatever might come from the state. There are mechanisms in place where we will be able to do some fundraising. We have been in contact with the donor agencies. We have been in contact with the Office of the High Commission for Human Rights in Dakar, and they have volunteered to host a fundraising meeting for us in Dakar, where the donor community is bigger, the diplomatic community is bigger, and hopefully we'll be able to engage people at that level who might be able to help with some funding.
So there is some goodwill out there, among the development
there is a lot of goodwill. We have been able to meet the UNDP, the resident coordinator, and also the representative. We have been able to meet the EU, and really they were all very, very, they were very eager to ensure that we work with them very closely. In fact, the training that we're going to do in July is funded by the Office of the High Commission for Refugees, which is based in Dakar. So yes, there is a lot of goodwill, but then how do we ensure that this goodwill is translated into definite, concrete, financial resources? Not only financial, because when we met them also, we talked about not only, as the Vice Chair mentioned, funding in terms of money, but some can be even in terms of providing technical assistance. There are people who are highly specialized in post-trauma management, psychosocial support, and also, because we're going to work with a database, there might be IT specialists who can help us to maintain our develop and maintain our database and things and so forth. So really, that's the way forward.
A lot of women, Ida, would have been affected by the 22 years of Yaya Jammeh. With no meaning, to maybe bring any segregation or whatever. Will women be prioritized? And what happens, when, for instance, someone has a case who is a woman, how, will they receive reparation immediately?
Well, like I said, it's a process, but then we also take into consideration the fact that men and women are different. What maybe a man can accept and what a woman can accept would be different.
What a man can endure is different from what a woman can endure.
Well, yeah, I don't want to go into the gender debate, but then we have a gender working group. And that gender working group obviously is there to make sure that both men and women are taken care of, and especially when it comes to the women, because we've learned that during the TRRC hearings, there were a lot of women who couldn't go and testify because of the way our society perceives certain things and so on. So we will make sure that we open the doors for them and make them feel comfortable to come in and then sort of report what had happened to them in a very honest manner, so that at least they could be supported and given all the necessary support.
And how quickly would you like action on cases to be and are seen to be? Because, one criticism you hear is, well, since the TRRC submitted its report, nothing has happened, and in the meantime, victims are dying.
You're right. Well, I think we have started the process because since April, we've not been just sitting back, waiting for our offices or waiting for the right people to be appointed. We've been having meetings. We have also, as the chair have said, we've got our work plan. We also have worked on our TORs of the different committees and also the working groups. So it's like things are going on. But like I said, it will not just be start today and tomorrow the funds are in. Yeah, even if the funds are in, there is a process and so on. But we are hopeful because in our work plan, we've targeted that before the end of the year, we should be able to start paying the reparations or supporting individuals who are to be supported and so on. So we are in June. Obviously, I'm sure before December, we should be able to at least be seeing people and then be giving them the necessary support, be it compensation or be it rehabilitation or whatever it is. That's our plan, and we are working very hard towards that.
All right. Dr. Duffy, I'll start with you, and Dr. Loom, you can, come in at any point, to sort of add to the conversation. Dr. Loom spoke about this points-based system that the TRRC used, to grade, the victims and, levels of compensation, reparation. Will you have your own points-based system, and how will that work, if yes?
Yeah, the point-based system is going to be based on what the Act said. I think it's fairly clearly spelled out in the Act. The points started from 10 down. I think those who were disappeared or they were killed are going to score the 10 points.
Okay.
People of sexual violence is about 7 points, if my memory serves me, according to the Act. So it goes down. So when you are assessing it, you have to be based on the law. We are not going to create any other point by ourselves. It's going to be based on the law, what the law provides.
Okay, and that's an interesting point, Dr. Loom. What if a condition that was not captured
Exactly.
in the Act comes up? You can't just say, well, unfortunately, I mean.
Exactly. That's why I mentioned the fact that we're going to bring, virtually liaise with somebody who is very, very vast with the point-based system. And this gentleman from the Philippines have been serving a lot of commissions like this worldwide. So he's regarded as the authority on point-based systems worldwide. He will be conducting the training for us, part of the training. Mm-hmm. The reality is what you mentioned. The law can only give out pointers, but the very finer details might not be within the law. For example, there might be a victim who is a victim of, let's say, gender-based violence, and at the same time he was a victim of torture, and at the same time he was detained. He or she was detained. So there are ramifications. There might be one person who has suffered about
they
5.
fall under all, or
So how do we compromise and say, okay, the law says that if in case you have 4 or 5 different violations, we'll just take 1 or 2, the most severe, for example. But then working out with the victim so they understand why this guy or this woman is being compensated this amount and not you who might have gone around or undergone the same sort of treatment is being paid more or less. So those finer details would have to be worked out. The TRRC, I think their mandate was very clear. It was a platform to bring in and to reveal the abuses. And they had also gone an extra mile to provide some compensation. But now it's left to us as a commission to look at the reparations, the finer details. That's why we're given 5 years. But people have to understand also that we'll try to manage expectations. What the victim community thought of was that once we're appointed, next day we'll start payments. I remember when Dr. Duffy mentioned this meeting that we had with the victim. The day we were appointed, that same day, the day we were sworn in by the president, we went to Kololi, we had a meeting with the victims at the victim center. And I can remember a victim getting up and telling me, so where is the money? We thought that you are bringing the money with you and that you will start reparations from today. So managing expectation is important to us. So it can only probably be done through having a very robust communication strategy in place. We explain to the victims that yes, we are in it together. In fact, the commission has 2 victims. I am also a victim. And I was actually appointed because I'm a victim. I've suffered under the regime also. And also there is another commissioner, Commissioner Jammeh. Commissioner Jammeh is the daughter of Haruna Jammeh. Maybe you will all remember Haruna Jammeh.
Yes.
Yeah, so she is also a commissioner, still have been with us, but she has another engagement with the National Human Rights Council. So the reason why we are in the commission is actually to ensure that victims know that we are in it together. We could have been on the other side challenging the commission We could have been on that side asking Dr. Defe, why am I not going to be paid 300,000 rather than 200,000? We were in the same boat. We were all accused of being witches, and now you are paying this person this amount, and you're paying me that. That also depends a lot on the investigations. When you file in a complaint, the secretariat will send people to go, and the investigator will go and investigate. And they will not depend only on the statement that you have made, although there are the forms that you have to fill and all that, but they will now go to the finer details and ensure that what you have said is true or not. And based on that, that will also help in sort of reviewing and finalizing the point-based system. There might be need for correction, there might be need for, again, going into details that at the level of the TRRC they might not have asked, or people were maybe not very sure whether Jammeh was coming back, so people, some people were very cautious about the type of statements.
Or because the TRRC was taking place in the open, people might have felt, well, you know, I'm too shy to reveal certain information in front of the world. Because this was on television as well.
That's true, particularly concerning gender issues. That is why we have 3 females in the commission. One of them is a victim. The other one is a representative of the youth, but she is also at the same time a lawyer. And then we have also the vice chair, who is also in a way represents the household. The females. So yes, we will ensure that there is a focus not only on men in brackets, but to all other genders and groups, like the youth, the very elderly. And unfortunately, a lot of the victims are passing out.
That's what
they are dying. They are dying. And then there are also victims that need constant support. That is why there is the importance of having the medical board. There are victims who every day almost they will be reporting to hospital. Some of them have undergone very, very serious traumatic, events, and they end up having mental challenges. Some of them require psychosocial support. Some of them require physical therapy. Just giving them the medication they have. Sometimes it's a challenge to have these medicines. Some of the medicine might not be available in the mainstream public hospital system. The arrangement that the TRRC, the post-TRRC unit had with the medical board was that some funding was transferred to the medical board, about 9 million. When we were appointed, my first meeting was with them. I told them, okay, you were given 9 million, how much have you spent? They spent only 1 million after 1 year. So we diplomatically wanted to tell them, okay, can we, since you're finding it very difficult to access this funding, can we lay hands on it? And then the outcry was, no, we'll get our act together and we'll do it properly. This money was lying down with the account section of it was Francis Small Teaching Hospital for almost 1 year. And they could only use 1 million. So now I assigned Dr. Dafe to work with them very closely to ensure that these funds are spent on victims. Because these are people who need this support now, not next year. They need it today. So that's one of the challenges that facing us.
Jar Oil, the company, have filling stations across the country, and our rates are relatively cheaper than anyone else across the country. Jar Oil is the biggest producer and distributor of cement in the country with the most competitive prices in the market.
Axila jam si Wave.
Yo, apply. Yo, luta do dede. Luta mo nulo jël moto nga andil ma xaalis. Hello?
Busel mu fine.
What?
Busel mu fine.
Oh, yes!
Wave Axina Gambia. Deposit and withdraw money, pay bills and buy mobile credit without fees. Transfer money wherever in the country for only 1% fee. Ak Wave. Busel mu fine? Wave. Your money is yours.
Dr. Loom is the chair of the Reparations Commission, and they are here this morning to raise awareness about the commission and its mandate. He's joined by Dr. Dafe and my sister, long lost sister, Aidan Dow, vice chair of the commission. Tell us, Aida, more about the questionnaire to be filled. I mean, how complicated is it, and some of the basic information that potential victims, applicants, need to fill in?
Well, the questionnaire will not be that complicated because I think it's a questionnaire that that's adapted from that of the TRRC.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So because we're almost doing the same thing, so we adopted, and I think what would be there would be the personal details of the individual, and also what the individual have gone through and so on. So it's that's the kind of form that would be given to them, and then they will fill it. For maybe those who need support, obviously the secretariat will support them in completing the form, so that at least it will not be very complicated and so on. But like I say, it's not complicated, so it's going to be very simple for them, because we know that most of the people also who suffered some of these traumas, problems, challenges and so on, some of them are not educated, so obviously they will need support. So if we make it too complicated, then obviously they will not be able to. And there are some people, when you make it too complicated, they just get fed up and then leave it there. So it's going to be very simple with personal details, and then maybe what the individual have gone through and so on.
Fantastic. And Dr. Dafe, you've been mandated to work with the EFSTH hospital. Good luck with that. But in terms of the Victims Center, I mean, how crucial are they to the success of this commission?
The Victim Center, I think what they have been doing to support, for example, this medical board. I've learned even the executive secretary, the funding, the salary being paid is coming from them, what I've heard. And from I think already that has expired, but they have extended it for another 2 months to be paid. That's the executive secretary. Of course, they have been, according to when I met them about the medical board, the operations, that's what they've said. They were giving that support. But that support is not the only thing that need to come. I think, as the chairman of the commission said, the money that has been allocated for these reparations, especially for the victims who had these medical issues, the money should be spent wisely. Of course, there are challenges. When I met them, those challenges were well noted. We're going to have a formal meeting with them, and then for the way forward. I think this is very crucial, and I hope when we meet the chair, we will come to solution. The money we may not get from Edward Fancy, but we want to ensure that the money is utilized, that is being used is for the purpose it is intended for.
All right. And what, Dr. Loom, as chair, if somebody is assessed, they're expecting, financial compensation, reparation, and the commission discovers that maybe they need more, psychosocial support than financial, reward, and then you propose, well, why don't we take you, to go and, receive some therapy? And but they had come looking for money. No man halis labuga.
Yeah, somewhere, Peter. I think it is possible. It's quite a possibility that there will be people who think that reparations means only physical, financial. Yeah. But the reality that reparations goes beyond that, really. Some of them
you understand that. Peter Gomez may not understand that.
I understand.
Their understanding is
that is why we are going to spend a lot of time and energy and resources on having a very, very robust communication strategy, whereby we will explain to people what is involved in the provision of reparations. It might not only be financial. In fact, there are instances when we cannot even address an individual. We need to probably address a community.
Exactly.
For example, if you go to a village like Jambur, I remember almost the whole village were accused of being witches. So really, where do you start with people like that? With instances like that? The reparation would be at the community level. How can you address the challenges that the communities are facing, in a holistic manner? We are not ruling out the possibility of some person coming in and he might need both psychosocial support and at the same time some sort of basic reparation in terms of cash. Maybe he needs to pay school fees for his kids. If you start telling him, okay, you go to the psychiatric clinic, they will take care of you. Yeah. But then the fundamental things that affect him on a daily basis also have to be addressed. So we will have to look at the balance between those type of things. Very complicated and very difficult.
You have your job cut out.
Particularly if the funding has a gap. And there are a lot of gap in the type of funding that we have. But then, as I said, we're not going to depend on what is available. We'll go out and actively find support.
Okay. I have a question coming in from those listening to us. Good morning, Uncle Peter. Please ask Commission members what reparations are available for families of victims who were summarily dismissed from senior positions without cause and lost their retirement benefits.
This person is talking about me.
Well, no, they're talking about me. They're talking about me.
I went through the same fate, really, but there is what is called also restitution. And I think restitution also involves trying to take the person to the level that he or she was before the injustice were meted out on the person. It is quite complicated. Some people not only lost their job, but some people lost their properties. Like you have a whole compound with maybe 5 or 6 buildings, and overnight they took out everything, and then the state sold these things. So restitution will involve trying to address those injustices. All depends on the funding. The little that we have, we will ensure is done in a very, very equitable manner. The distribution should be done without fear or favor, so to speak, but to ensure that the little that we have is distributed to all who can have at least some degree of redress. I mean, we cannot. I know that it's not possible to address all the injustices that were done. For that to happen, I think that we will need about maybe $600 to $700 million, maybe, and we know that's not going to happen. So the little that we have.
Well, you never know. I mean,
maybe.
Let's just cross our fingers for the meeting in Dakar. If they can raise $1 billion for you, why not?
It is possible. So yes, if the funding is available, we will ensure that we look at all these things. But in instances where it's not available, we will still, the restitution committee will still sort out individuals like that and then make a case. It might be that the funding might not come from the Reparations Commission, it might come from somewhere else. We'll say, yes, this person was summarily dismissed, he has passed away, but he left a family who needs support, like children going to school and so forth. There might be the possibility of taking it up with the Minister of Justice and ensuring that eventually justice is done. That is a possibility.
Fantastic, fantastic. Would you like to say something in the local languages?
Yes.
As part of the awareness creation?
Yes.
Do we start with Ida?
Assalamu alaikum mbokay. Reparation Commission mooy ñun ñoo fi nekkal Reparation Commission ñëwoon pour waxtaana askan wi pour wax leen ne Reparation Commission bi ñu ngi ko set up depuis April ñu ngi commencé nañ suñu liggéey ñu ngi def li ñu war a def di su ko defee ndax ñu mun a living toppatoo nit ñi li ma bëgg a wax rek mooy ne réparation pour ñëpp la képp koo xam ne mus nga am jafe-jafe si jamono ji ñoo wax at si 22 years of Jammeh's rule réparation mun naa nekk pour yow pour ñëpp la so li ñoo jéem a wax rek mooy koo xam ne am nga jafe-jafe mun ngaa ñëw wax a ñun ñu mun a seet ndax war nañ laa jox dara or not waaye li ma bëgg a wax itam mooy réparation du mbiri xaalis rek réparation mun naa ñëw si façon bu nekk mun naa ñëw pour comme dimbale la si sa wérgu yaram mbala même pour sa jàngi doom mbala yow sa jàng ak even communities itam communities yi nga xam ne amoon nañ issues amoon nañ problème comme communities yooyu ñëw itam mun nañ leen a jox réparation soo xoolee commission bi yàggut lool waaye liñ si jublu mooy pour askan wi nga xam ne amoon nañ jafe-jafe ñu jàppale leen support leen si bépp am na boo xam ne mun nañ ko now.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Dr. Loum, you do Mandinka or Dafe does Mandinka? Dafe.
Yes. Assalamu alaikum. Balim lamor lalim. Ntolle moda Reparation Commission. Nina chairman or vice chairman. The chairman of Dr. Loum and then the vice chairman on Aisat Ndao. And interfon Dr. Dafe ndemu commission member. Commission member dole beje wol manna e mona ne be koma. Musufula bol kono Aisa Jammeh and Safiatou Touré. Also Ibu Faye and Abdou Mane. So you'll be more commission, but in better my ben or comme commissioner ya fanya president ya tolole ameta karisa ba komanto do ko ñenete pour ka jibe victimol mele alon ko e lanjuro soto marlo men tambitan nu jang dol tara TRRC dol manta commissioner men lota wala ka jibe mel tata ne mel manta kila ko kisi mantor sifa e nyaadi le soto o mantoro ni pour que ba jibe la ke compenser wala ke juso nyabo abekala buta mari akokola ala kamurunda be nu nyame bot ka juso nyabo o commissioner nyen lota wala commissioner nyen kabra lota nga do ku jamal ke meeting jamal le keta dol be je ka ke suto dol be je online dol be je fon la kamiti ay signa jamasi nga mol fana mit melalon ko wala le be nyen commissioner nyen support ka masakunda la do ku la Ministry of Justice and then the UN system pour kaje ko nyen commissioner la do ko stano a nyama commissioner nyen nae do ko dati kabra do ko dati mbe fero lande kana kajibe compensation dat no nyame mbata dat no la fonga na database wala kamol tolta anen kajibe to la mantoro nyimbe level jumalto o fanan ni luwaji be membe dande nyi commission la abe landile wol nyanta jusu nyabo sot la nyame wala be compenser la yo category de so victim wala be register la le investigation o be kala saje compensation na keno ngalon ko akolata bak mome mantoro soto kay ko batu akokola dole beje wolle jata kende ala problème o soto wol fonna ko be sula dato bak medical board beje le melon ko post TRRC Ministry of Justice e meyele e melonde pour ka jibe mele alon ko la jata kende te batu no lay saje kalta loptano o fanan do ko be kirna ba ngaje ko nyin commission o nyi kabre do ko date e lafta jibe la wala do ko be nyame abita kan nyaade le anen ka jibe haw iba asembentu ala nyame anasta nyato asetare ana isaje mel nyanta jarlo sot jang anen kata banko bantala isaje se jarlo sot so nata wala jam pour nal kakacha pour al salon ko commission o be janne atamela molimina na office auto mem keta kotu logis building ne muftaje molimina e bekalla register la ne register la mbela ko kiskis la meli tara TRRC an mel manda TRRC ngaji be fo ñu li jarta ka compensation o dil
kon docteur Lum yéen a ngi jóg pour xamal nit ñi seen liggéey lim doon ak léegi ku bëggoon a ñëw ci yéen fu mu leen a fekk
waa fi mu nekk ni suñ office bi jafe-jafe lañ ci amaguñ fa ni co moo tax nekkaaguñ fa waaye benn tey suñ executive secretary bi mu ngi toog ci fi ñoo ooyee post TRRC unit Banjul Ministry of Justice koo xam ne ki xëy na nga am na loo xam ne da nga foog war nañ koo xam mbaa da nga bëgg a xam da nga la ñu liggéeyee mun nga faa dem moom mu ngi tudd Essa Koka post TRRC unit la nekk Ministry of Justice foofu la nekkaagum ba suñ office bi pare ñu door a toxu fii nii kootu gannaaw boobul tam su nekkul loolu tam commissionnaire yi ñun ñëpp suñ nomba si nañ ko dina possible pour nga mun a waxaa ñun soo jaaree ci Essa soo ne par exemple dama man docteur Lum laa bëgg a waxal Essa dina la mën a jox sama nomba nga wax man directly waaye li ma bëgg a leeral rek mooy suñ liggéey bi lu ñu sas la lu diis la nag ni te loo xam ne lii rek doyut pour séddale ko problème laa nekk dégg tam doomu aadama ni mu bindoo mooy ne toujours dañoo yaakaar ne man lii maa ko war a am suñ ci ànduta suñ xel rek dinañu indil jafe-jafe bi kon mun naa am nga foog ne yow li nga war a am moo ëpp war a ëppali démb ba paate war a am ñun nag suñ liggéey mooy séddale lu métti la mun naa fàttali ko ku mel ni Seyd Camara daf daan wax naan su daan séddale ci ngénte ñu ne ko parce que yow mënuloo séddale mu ne amuloo moo tax laajal ñi am mu ne ñi am moom d'accord nañ ne moom mun naa séddale so séddale du lu yomba waaye nag ñun tam dañ waat bi ñu président bi appointé dañ waat ne suñ liggéey bi dañ ko def ci anam bu rafet bu ànda sarta yi nga xam ne moom lañ tëral
amut
farfarle amut ne kii pati sangam la nekk mbaa xeet sangam la ñun suñu yoon nekku ci loolu ñun politique jógloowuñu farfarloo jógloowuñu suñu yoon nekku ci loolu ndax xam naa ne bi ñoo tànn sax seet nañ nit ñi nga xam ne mosuñoo dugal seen bopp ci politique so ñun parti suñu yoon nekkul ci parti suñu yoon nekkul ci politique liggéey bii nii dañ koo def ndig dañ ñu ko sant ak itam ak boolewaal ci góom yàlla itam xam ne doomu aadama li nga xam ne moom la war a am kenn war a tax digganteem ak li mu war a am ak wërsëgam leen itam mu gën lii rek mooy foog naa sa vice chair bi leer wax na ko ak tam docteur Daffé su nit amee claim dafaa ñëw ci secrétariat bi dañ fa am li ñoo wooyee investigators ñooñu soo ñëwee am na ku laa dimbale sax pour jël sa statement nga bindal la yëpp soo paree jox ko investigators yi investigators ñoom ñooy dem du boor yi rek de suñ liggéey ba ci dex gi la moo tax tam nañ am li ñoo wooyee outreach programme su neexee la dinañ dem wër dex gi yëpp wax leen programme it commission bi naka la ñoo liggéeyee ak ku am jafe-jafe boobu ne da nga bëgg commission bi xam ko ci sarta yiñ tëral yi nga war a jaar incha allah nañ dem ci dex gi nañ wër réew mi yëpp
ok ay da ñan ñoo mun a ñëw ci commission bi ngir jot ci ndàmpaay bi commission bi mun a joxe
waaw comme niñ ko waxee ñi nga xam ne demoon nañ si TRRC bi nga ñooñu am nañ seen tur yi am nañ seen problème
lépp li leen dal
waaw li leen dal ak yooyu noonu yëpp fi mu nekk nii am na ñeneen ñoo xam ne jamono TRRC nanguñu woon a dem o munuñu woon a dem waaw léegi ñooñu noonu mun nañoo ñëw ñoom itamit si ñun suñ commission bi soo defee wax ñoom itam lan lañ dem turu lan moo leen dal soo defee ñu xool ndax ñoom itamit war nañ leen a mun a jox ndàmpaay wala mun nañ leen a dimbale si xëy na mbiri garab comme su fekkee ne si wérgu yaram ak yooyu noonu soo koo xam ne daal fiil nga ne man defoon nañ ma lii te lii loo xam ne war naa koo dem waxi mun na ñëw waaw te suñ ñëwee dëgg la suñ office bi paree ngul waaye bés bu paree suñ ñëwee foofu noonu su defee dinañ leen mun a jàppale ñu xool ndax li ñu wax aw na yoon soo defee ñu mun leen a toppatoo
waaw ndàmpaay moom xam nga ñu bari ñoom xaalis lañ ci séntu waaye docteur Loum ca ci anglais waxoon na ne am na ñoo xam ne bés bu nekka ñu ngi génne ci seen poos yi dem jënd garab parce que dañ war a jëfoo garab bés bu nekka nga ñëw léegi joxuñ la xaalis waaye yow garab ba nga daan jënda ñu ne la baax na léegi yow jaratul ngaa jënda garab ñun dinañ jënda sa garab yëpp xam nga dina am ñoo xam ne ñi dañoo ñëw di séntu ne xaalis la baax na tam ñu xamal ñu ne ndàmpaay du xaalis rek
waaw moo tax ma wax loolu ne ndàmpaay du xaalis rek ndàmpaay mun naa ne que ñu yóbbu la nga gis docteur ñu jëndal la garab toppatoo la li ñu la war a toppatoo yëpp nga dem sa kër mun a faju ndàmpaay itam mun naa ñëw ci comme nga am ay jafe-jafe xel parce que xam nga ñeneen ñi tamit liñ dem liñ gis ak liñ leen def loolu yëpp jaxase na seen xel loolu itamit ndàmpaay la am na ñoo xam ne itamit xëj na ñu ngi daan munal seen boppam munatuñ seen doom yaa ngi toog jànguñ te li tax jànguñ mooy amuñ luñ leen fayal ñooñu itam mun nañ leen a dimbale soo defee seen xale yi dem jàngi yooyu même community bi comme ni ministre lu mu waxee docteur lu mu waxee jàmbur xam nga community bi ñëpp lañ li fi noonu ne woon ay duma lañ ay waaw xam nga wax yu ñaaw yooyu loolu noonu su fekkente ne métit am na fa du benn nit rek a am métit community bi yëpp am métit so su ñoo war a def dara itam dinañ war a dem si community boobu itam seet ñoom itam naka lañ leen a mun a jàppale so moo tax ñu ne du xaalis rek dëgg la nag xaalis moo gën a am njëriñ moo gën a am importance parce que ku nekk bugga nga waaye xam nga xaalis itam dafa gaaw a jeex waaw même suñu la joxee 1 million sa 1 million ba soo sa génnee dalasi rek am nekkaatul million waaw so nga seeti tamit loo xam ne mun na laa njëriñ sa njaboot yi tamit loolu fa naa moo gën yi tamit xaalis bi ñu laa jox nga dugga boutique bi génn mu jeex waaw
so léegi waaye dafa dox rek ñu ne waa man de lii lee ma daloon rek ngeen dal di ne waa baax na yow war nañ laa jox ndax dafa am
déedéet am na ay sarta yu ñoo tegal yow su fekkente da nga ñëw dugga si office bi di nga fa fekk ñu ngi waa taseel mooy waa secrétariat bi ne leen lii moo ma daloon su defee dinañ la déglu jël sa tur sa details yi yëpp comme foo dëkka ñaata at nga am ban jamono nga foog ne looloo la dal o def nañ la dara su defee suñ jëlee yooyu noonu yëpp ba pare ñu ne la demal soo demee soo defee ñu dem ñun itam def gëstu parce que nit mun naa ñëw rek ne def nañ ma li te fekk defuñ waaw waaye su defee suñ demee def gëstu yi ba nga xam ne óor nañu ne gëstu yi liñ def yëpp liñ laajte liñ gëstu yëpp am na su boobaa nag ñun itam dinañ ut ay expert ñoo xam ne xëy na xam nañ luwaabe yooyu ñu jàppale ñu su ñu jàppale ñu xool kii li mu wax yëpp ndax enu na maana na enuwut maana su boobaa nag si lañ laa door a ñëw nag comme niñ doon waxee point système bi ñu jël point système boobu seet nag yow lan lañ la war a jox moo tax yëf yi du ne dangaa dugga si tey si office bi rek ñu ne la am xaalis baa ngi nii mbala nga wax rek ñu ne la xaalis baa ngi nii mbala kaay nga dem gisi docteur foog mu jël time su war fee ñu process bi ñu xool ak loolu noonu parce que fii itam àdduna la nit mun naa ñëw parce que bugga na xaalis ñëw ne lii ak lii moo ma dal te fekk loolu amul waaw bala tur yi nuroo ñaari Aïssatou Ndaw am nga ñëw ne man la te fekk du yow so yooyu noonu yëpp dinañ ko war a lifin seet xool gëstu ko waaw
te yaakaar naa docteur Loum ci seen liggéey tamit di ngeen bàyyi xel ne Yaya Jammeh mu ngi bugg a yàgga si de bam fi jógee ko so ñi nga xam ne ñu la tooñ ñoom itam ñu ngee mag te kenn moomu
waxul ma mag sax waaye unfortunately sax ñu bari ñu ngee dee waaw loolu mooy li ci gën a daw yaram am na ñoo xam ne ñi liñ dal li leen dal moo tax sax seen gudduñ fan ñeneen ñi dee nañ ñeneen ñi itam bañ disappear ba léegi ay ati at am na ci ñu xam noo xam ne ñi seen même seen waajur yi sax xalaat nañ leen ba mujjee génn àddina yooyu bari nañ waaye tam pour wax rek li ay doon wax léegi nii muy vice chair bi problème bi nga ñëw joxe false declaration mu ngi ci loi bi dafa am ay sarta yoo ñu tegal ne su fekkee nit ñëw na wax lu ne du dëgga ñu dem investigate ko gis na du dëgga mun naa indi problème bu bari loi bi sarta baa ngi clair ne lii lañ la war a def lii lañ la war a def te ñu ñaan yàlla sax yàlla buñ fa egga waaw ni te du lu rafet daal xaalis bi ñoo wax nii du xaalis rek waaye itam dimbale nit ki ba mu delluwaat ci sagoom dimbale nit ki ba mu wér dimbale nit ki garab yi mu war a am mu mën a am garab yooyu dimbale nit ki nga xam ne xëj na moom nekkaatu fi sax waaye njabootam bi mu bàyyi gannaaw ñu war a dem school ñu dimbale leen ba di leen fayal school fees loolu yëpp ci réparation la bokk.
absolument docteur Daffé su ko defee nga waxal ñu loolu noonu ci soose. juróomi minute rek a des.
yes so comme yavo suru account ñam reparation commission o ñel lota ay sarto le soto ñande mel tamandla compensation la carola restitution o be jela mele alon ko ay day foté la ye bay la place auto o foté la cordal la la fengol la o fannaɓe jeela réparation oɓe kala men aɓe fare fana mele alon ko koɗola karola compensation o fana sekeje mele mantoro soda anin jata kende ala karola ngamira ndeɓet mbe bayas la je ka fola ko tettele mbala tema because jela mon tafon la area ti kaje ko de health molla jata kende especially victim wol before the reparation defo ay victim jamala je me alon ko ngema ko health wise but coming out from ni medical board men set up ta I be do ko kam bara problem wol be je me alon ko nyante sort out la wala comme la pre assessment ngambra ñon commission lo bolon la before bita medical board comme the vice chair fo nyame ke la statement volta ke assess properly before futala med so that is a jaralo sota anyama boro fana me nyanta sanna sa sada anyama mele fana nyanta tala outside treatment or stano anyama kia fana afo janna ko dolbe je saje c'est problème jama so da manke ko men jata kende adon bare la dol fana beje il faut la fengol la o fana da point system wonye batande la ko fo nenga develop fota nyanta o compensation be fomba be bolé la bande fonda be kala be clineta la wol kon so ñu be mu fenne de commission be janna ka make sure da ko ñu be ya tama nyama saje victim wol c'est la compensation sota nyama ana awatol.
We will round up now in the three languages used, starting with of course the chair. So just in wrapping up, what would you like the audience to take away from this conversation?
Yeah, I think that what's very fundamental is the fact that the Commission is here to address the issues of the victims. That's why we say the Commission is victim-centered. Really, we will work very closely with the victims to ensure that reparation is done in a fair and equitable manner. That should be the message that we will want to take home. We're having a town hall on Friday at the Memory House in Kanifing, and it will be the same thing.
Fantastic. ay da ngir tëj waxtaan wi rek loo bëgg a fàttali ñi nga xam ne ñoo ñu doon toppa ci mbiri commission bi.
waaw li ma leen bëgg a wax rek mooy pour ñu xam ne réparation du sarax du luñ laa sarax sa yelleef la waaw so ñun ñëpp ñoo mun a liggéey together ñun ak nit ñi askan wi pour li xewoon si gannaaw ñu mun koo fàtte ba pare mun a make sure ne ñi nga xam ne amoon nañ ay jafe-jafe ñu mun leen a jàppale ba pare delloo leen su fekkee mun nañ leen a delloo fañ nekkoon ñu delloo leen fa loolu la am pour wax leen du sara seen yelleef la.
Okay.
Waaw.
All right. And last but not least, Dr. Dafe in Mandinka.
Yes, ko nga fo ñame reparation commission lotale commission lota pour ka victime la ko njibe ka kisi anen ka compensation wala ke ijuso nyabo ado ko be kala sanji lulati so atabanno la telekilling atabanno la wania so abe kala process lati wala fo kisi ro ke janne be jusu nyabo kala so do ko nyi datetale be mem fo la bade lamor lale anen mele alon ko yemantoro soto se do ko ke nga mbulo di nyola nga do ko je saje do ko nyi se sona yambulu victime wala se la jusu nyabo sota anyama nyanta sota la nyame tu nga jike tumondo be ye la jiko men soto na karola tumodo jiko nyimbe mafala nga jiko be do ko kala ka victime wala compensation anyama.
Thank you, Dr. Dafe. Thank you, Dr. Loom. Thank you, Ida, Vice Chair of the Reparations Commission. Dr. Loom, of course, is the chairperson, and Dr. Dafe is one of the commissioners. It's coffee time with Peter Gomez.
Jar Oil. The company have filling stations across the country, and our rates are relatively cheaper than anyone else across the country. Jar Oil is the biggest producer and distributor of cement in the country with the most competitive prices in the market.
Excellent jam si Wave.
Yo, apply. Yo, luta do de de. Luta munu lo jël moto nga andil ma xaalis. Hello? Ana lay waxal.
Bisul mu fine.
What?
Bisul mu fine.
Oh, yes!
Wave Axina Gambia. Deposit and withdraw money, pay bills and buy mobile credit without fees. Transfer money wherever in the country for only 1% fee. At Wave. Bisul mu fine? Wave. Your money is yours.